So I'm sure by now you've heard about the 2020 iPad Pro or the brand new iPad Air. But what I've been doing is spending some time with the iPad 8, the budget iPad of the bunch. And I've got to say that this really surprised me. This iPad, the amount of things that you can get done with it by just adding a few things to the iPad itself is absolutely amazing. What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Qasim, and today I'm going to give you guys a bunch of reasons as to why you should consider the iPad 8 for yourself or someone you care about this holiday season. Now on its own, the iPad is essentially just a bigger iPhone. You've got a beautiful 10.2-inch Retina display, which is great in the hands for browsing the web, watching videos, and doing everyday tasks. But if you've ever used an iPad before, or even if you are new and using it for the first time, you'll quickly realize that it's really hard to type with just the on-screen keyboard. This is where accessories come into play, and adding a few accessories that I'm going to show you guys today can really alter the amount of productivity that you can achieve with this iPad. Now, unlike the iPad Air or the iPad Pro, this doesn't work with the Apple Magic Keyboard. This only works with the Smart Keyboard, and that honestly isn't that great. That's why I recommend the Logitech Combo Touch. It's got a more natural feel of typing similar to what you're used to on a laptop. This is a backlit keyboard which magnetically attaches to the iPad, so there's no need to worry about Bluetooth pairing. It's also a two-part keyboard. One part has a case and stand which is adjustable so you can get the perfect viewing angle, and the other part is the keyboard itself. I'm not going to lie though, it does take some time getting used to typing on this keyboard, as the keyboard is quite a bit smaller than your standard laptops. In my case, coming from a 16-inch MacBook Pro, there's a huge difference, but I promise you that as soon as you get past that learning curve, this keyboard will definitely satisfy. Unlike the Magic Keyboard, which only has numeric keys at the top, this keyboard has all the keys you'd need for an iPad. You've got a home key, brightness control keys, a keyboard key which allows you to bring up the on-screen iPad keyboard if you'd like. You've also got a search which triggers spotlight feature so you can search the web or for apps and documents on the iPad. You've also got two keys to adjust the backlight of the keyboard for your desired amount. You've got media keys to play, pause, and skipping tracks forward and back. You've also got volume controls to raise, lower, and even mute the volume. And finally, a lock key to lock the iPad. The iPad will also lock automatically when you close the keyboard. You've also got a full trackpad, which even works with gesture controls to bring up the app switcher and swipe through home screens and so much more. Another plus is that compared to the cost of the Apple Magic Keyboard, which is $349 or $299 depending on your model of the iPad Pro, this keyboard comes in at $149. The entire script for this iPad 8 video I typed up on this keyboard, and I didn't have any issues whatsoever. So by just adding this keyboard to the iPad 8, believe me guys, you'll be able to get that laptop experience of a keyboard, but in a much more compact and portable format. So if you're a student in college, then this is a keyboard definitely to consider. I know in college you've got to type up lots of essays, and even if you're somebody who just wants to get some work done on the go, then this is going to be great for you as well. Also, if you're someone that doesn't like using a trackpad and you would be better off using a mouse, then for you I recommend the Logitech Pebble. This is a $30 mouse designed specifically for the iPad that I picked up from my local Best Buy. The reason is because this is a tiny little mouse, and you can pair it up with the iPad via Bluetooth and take it anywhere with you. You can toss it in a backpack and keep it with you to really get that full desktop experience on the go. It's got a scroll wheel and two clicky click buttons for both right and left clicks. I personally prefer the trackpad because it has all those gesture controls that you would need to navigate through the iPad. But if you're somebody who likes a mouse, then this is a perfect, cheap, and portable option to consider. Now you probably see that loop at the top of the case, and that's for the Apple Pencil. That's the next accessory I want to talk about because even though this iPad only supports the first gen Apple Pencil, it's still worth it. Now most people will show you that it's odd to charge the Apple Pencil by plugging it into the lightning port of the iPad. First of all, it only takes a whopping 6 minutes to charge it up to full battery, and also if you don't want to do that, then there's plenty of chargers available on Amazon that can solve that issue. With the Apple Pencil, you'll easily be able to jot down notes or make annotations to documents. I remember being in college and jotting down notes and then highlighting things on documents that the professors would hand out. It was quite a task. I wish I had something like this iPad to get me through those days. You can easily scribble out in handwriting with the pencil, and it just translates that to text for you. Even in situations where your scribbling is messy, it still seems to get it down pretty well. Now, the Apple Pencil is going to run you an additional $99, so that's why I recommend really think about it as to whether you really need it for what you're going to do. If you're a student that's going to be taking lots of notes, then this is going to be great for you. Or even in my case, like doing photo and video editing, it really helps get more precision as opposed to just using the touch screen with your finger. So really just think about it. If you really need it, then go that extra mile and get the $99 Apple Pencil. But if not, you can use this iPad without it as well. Now, another cool feature that you have with this iPad is Apple Sidecar. This allows you to have the iPad as a secondary display for your Mac or MacBook Pro. So I literally can just mirror my MacBook's display onto this iPad and use it as a secondary display. This is just like you'd use any other display. You can simply drag windows and drop them onto the iPad or vice versa. This is a really good option and really cool feature to have. Also guys, with the USB camera adapter, you're going to be able to connect an external hard drive to the iPad 8. Now, I personally use iCloud Drive because that way all my files on my MacBook and iPad and iPhone, they all stay in sync and I can have access to them on the go using the Files app. But if you need to store files on a hard drive or read files from it, you do have that option using this camera adapter. Next, I want to talk about the camera. Now, on the back side, you've got a single wide 8 megapixel camera, which can record video in 1080p at 30 frames per second. Honestly, I don't know about you guys, but me personally, I don't shoot photos with an iPad. I think for most of us, we have a good enough camera on our phones, so I don't really see the need for having a great camera on the iPad. But what I do want to talk about is that front camera, which is a 1.2 megapixel FaceTime HD camera. Because if you're going to be doing FaceTime calls or joining Zoom meetings, then do know that when in landscape, the camera is off to the left side. So when you're looking at the video of the other person that you're talking to, then it's going to look like to them that you're looking off to the side. So if that's a concern of yours, then this is something to keep in mind. Now onto the display of this iPad 8. Now it is a Retina display, but this is not a laminated display like you'll find in the Pro models and the iPad Air. In a non-laminated display, there's a bit of a gap between the display and the top glass and touch panel. This means that there's more room for light to travel between the display and the top glass, therefore reducing the image and video quality. This also impacts visibility performance when under the sun. Though this doesn't mean this iPad has a bad display. For all sorts of tasks that you're going to be doing, the image and video quality is still great. Text still looks sharp and is easy to read, and all the colors on the screen are vibrant and accurate, so don't let that hold you back from giving this iPad a shot. Now while we're on the topic of the display, I really enjoyed the ability of just being able to touch the screen for different inputs. Pinching in to zoom in on something, opening up different apps. You're not used to that when you're on a MacBook or any other laptop that doesn't have a touchscreen. And when I went back to my MacBook, I constantly found myself trying to touch the screen. So I really appreciate the fact that with this keyboard and with this setup on the go, you have that touchscreen as well. Below the display, you've got your home button with Touch ID. With Touch ID, you can use the fingerprint to unlock the iPad, authenticate logins for websites, and even use it to authenticate purchases with Apple Pay. Now, Face ID is great to have, whether it's on a phone or iPad, but with the reduced price of this iPad, I didn't really find it to be any more inconvenient using Touch ID as opposed to Face ID. At the bottom of the iPad, you've got two speakers which perform perfectly fine. The audio you get from these is going to be more than sufficient for watching videos or even playing music. You've also got a headphone jack, so if you want to plug up your favorite headphones, then you'll have that option as well. Next, I want to talk about the performance of this iPad. Now, this iPad has the A12 chip. Now, it is technically slower than the A14 of the iPad Air and even the A12Z of the iPad Pro, but don't let that convince you that this iPad is a slow one by any means. Now, I could run a bunch of benchmark tests, but honestly, performance for me comes down to how well a device handles the tasks that I put it through. I paired up my Xbox controller and played COD Mobile, and it ran as smoothly as I would expect. Even during multitasking, I had videos running on one side while I was typing a document on the other. Everything ran perfectly smoothly. So honestly guys, even with the A12 chip, performance is not going to be an issue for you. Alright, so next let's talk about the battery life. Now this one is always weird for me simply because your usage and my usage are going to be two different things. But nonetheless, I use this for gaming, typing up documents, replying to YouTube comments, all sorts of stuff. And getting 8 to 9 hours was not difficult at all for me. So from a battery perspective, you guys aren't going to have any issues whatsoever. Last but not least, I want to talk price with you guys. Now the base model of this iPad 8 at 32 gigabytes of storage comes in at $329. But I would highly suggest guys you spend the extra 100 and get the 429 model, which comes with 128 gigabytes. Simply because when you start adding just a few apps to this, you're going to run out of that storage pretty quickly. So I would suggest to be on the safe side, go with the 429 model. So if you take the $429 price tag of the iPad, the $149 for the keyboard, the $29 for the mouse, and the $99 for the Apple Pencil, you're going to come in at around $708. Now, keep in mind, this doesn't include tax because that's going to differ depending on where you live, right? But even if you factor in taxes, you're still going to come in $250 cheaper than the starting MacBook Air price, which is $999. And if you go with just the iPad $429 model and the keyboard, then you're going to come in at $578 before taxes, which is cheaper than both the current iPad Air, which is $599, and the iPad Pro, which is $999. Wow guys, that was a ton of information to cover for one video, but my main objective here was to show you guys that even if you get this iPad without the bells and whistles of the iPad Pro or even the iPad Air, this is still a great iPad. It performs well, the display is great, you can get tons of productivity by just adding a few things to the iPad, and for me this is more of a supplement because I do video editing, and just for that purpose, I need my MacBook. But if I was to put that aside for a second and just take a hard look at this iPad and the amount of things that I can get done here, then it's a no-brainer for me. Like, I really can't say that I won't be able to do everything I normally do on a laptop with this iPad. So again, if you're a student, you're in college, you've got tuition fees, you've got parking fees, you've got all sorts of expenses. And if you just want to save a little bit of money when it comes to a computer, then go with this iPad. Because if I think about it, when I was in college, if I had this option, then I wouldn't have gone with a MacBook. And again, even if you're somebody who just wants to get work done on the go in a much more compact format, then this is a very, very good option for you. Alright guys, that's going to do it for me today. I really hope that you found this video helpful in deciding whether this iPad 8 is the right iPad for you. So if you guys found this video helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Comment down below with anything that you'd like to say, or if you have any questions for me, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for more. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you all in the next video.